Hi, I'm Bill Van Gilder. I've been asked a lot lately to talk about trimming plates. So I've thrown some plates and we'll get one of them trimmed. And I'll show you how I do it. It's not the only way to do it, but it makes the most sense to me. These plates that I made yesterday morning, I left them uncovered all night, so they're quite stiff now. They're actually really stiff at the rim and pretty stiff at the center also. The advantage of that, letting them get this stiff, is when I pop them up off the bat, and actually they come loose by themselves, they don't warp. And of course, you don't want warped plates. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a surface to put the plate onto. I'm going to use this foam bat, which you can now find on my website on the tools page. And I've worked hard at finding the right foam for these bats. I wanted it to be 2 inches thick so I could turn pots that are bigger than the bat. And you'll see what I mean here in a second. I put 2 pins in the wheel head, attach the bat, turn the plate over onto the foam. And what I like about this is that the plate can be much bigger than the foam or the bat. There's no clay involved here. I don't have to have little coils of clay stuck to the rim, to the wheel head, holding everything in place, because I really want to bring the tool down to the edge of the plate during the trimming process. But I want to show you something about making these plates. So I threw my plates with quite a wide flange on them. It's quite a formal looking plate, or platter, in actual fact. But at this point it looks somewhat like a bowl, a shallow bowl. And that's because they dried overnight the air underneath and on top of the rim, which shrunk the clay and it raised up. I don't worry about that. I know that eventually it'll go back to the original shape that it was thrown. So let's just trim it. Now, I know my flange is about 3 inches wide. And this plate is about 14 inches in diameter from side to side. We trim the outside to imitate the inside shape, and that's going to be the case with this plate. The flange stops here, and then we have the drop into the flat part of the plate. So on the outside, I'm going to look at the plate, try and see both inside and outside, and figure out where does the drop outside have to take place. And I make a little mark there. That marks this spot out here. Okay, I just do that with my thumbnail. That's a mark to use when I get here to the trimming part. So I'm going to set this on here. I'm going to knock it into center. Now, because we haven't got clay, little pads of clay holding the plate to the wheel head, I've got to be able to pressure the plate down here at the center just a little bit. That's another reason why I let them get so stiff. I don't want this to sink in. I'm going to trim with this tool, which is a new tool. You can also find a trimming tool with a lot of different shapes, replaceable blades, on my website, on the tool store also. So I'm going to hold the tool with both hands, connecting with my thumb here. My thumb actually pressures it. My right hand holds the tool in place. My left hand provides the pressure, cutting. So we'll just sort of go at this. Oh, let me go back a second. I talked about this being 14 inches. Right here, that's about my foot ring. And that's about 8 inches. So roughly a little over half the total width of the plate is going to be my foot ring dimension. Okay. I'm going to put some eyes on. I'm putting quite a lot of pressure here at the center of the plate. And I know the drop is right about there. So I'm going to create a drop in the opposite shape on the outside. So there's the drop. Now come into my foot ring. This inside pressure, or the pressure I'm putting here, counterbalances the pull that's happening with the tool. Keeps it really well centered. Now, I'm never afraid to stop the wheel, pick the piece up and see what the weight is like. At the same time, I'm feeling the thickness. And it's a fraction more than 1/4 of an inch here, 1/4 of an inch out here. A little bit more right at that point. Now this line right here, I'm creating a wax line. I'm going to create the rest of my foot here in a moment, but when it comes to waxing the pot before glazing, I'm going to wax this little ledge right here to make sure that the glaze doesn't climb down onto the kiln shelf. I move in a little more than 1/4 of an inch on a platter this size and mark it. Now I start in the center and I move to 3 o'clock. Now one thing I like about these tools is I can get a good grip on it. It's not something that's too small in my big hands. The other thing I've discovered about these tools is they're self-sharpening. I've had this tool for about 7 or 8 months. It's the only trimming tool I'm using now, and it just keeps getting sharper and sharper. So I'm going to create a cut here. I'm going to glaze this area, so it has to be deep enough to allow for the glaze thickness without touching the kiln shelf. Now that tapping noise, if it's high pitched, it's usually a thick piece of clay. If it's low pitched, it's a thin piece of clay. I don't know if we can hear it here. It's telling me this is still pretty thick. So I'll take another few layers of clay away from here. I close up all the pores of the clay where there might be a bit of sand or grog showing with a bit of slit that's just created by water pushed against the pot. Put my chop or my seal at the foot area, and that seems like a pretty good weight, a sensible weight. I want to talk about one other thing that happens with plates. Often we have this flange flattened. When I make it, when I throw it wet at the wheel, I'm trying to put the exact angle on this flange or the edge of the plate that I want when it comes out of the glaze kiln. It's going to go through some changes by pulling itself upward as it shrinks because the water's driven off, those particles of clay move closer together and it shrinks. The only place it can shrink is upward, and so it does. In the firing, clay gets soft, it gets pliable when it gets to high temperature. In the glaze firing, what happens in a plate is this rim, the foot ring, acts as a fulcrum, like on a seesaw. So it gets soft and pliable, this rim drops down a little bit, this center raises up a little bit from here to here, drops down, raises up. That's why sometimes you throw a flat plate and it comes out of the kiln humped. The glaze's surface is pulling it, contracting it. There's a lot of issues here, but this is where it starts at the making process for me. I make this clay myself, so I know how pliable it gets in the kiln. I know how much it moves around. When I throw the plates, even though eventually I want this center to be dead flat, what I actually do is I throw it in a very shallow curve. So in the firing, it raises up to be dead flat. This flange drops down to be a little above flat. A little slight slope on it, which is fine. So, two simple tools and quite a stiff plate. Trimming's not that difficult, but it does complete the pot. I've always felt, and I was taught many years ago, the outside of the plate, especially the bottom side, is equally as important as what happens in here. Thanks for watching Clay Clips. See you again.